Hello everyone, Timon here from Syncanite Foundation. We will today talk about the dignitaries because a good friend of mine had some questions about them. You can introduce yourself, everyone.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm just a big fan of the game, and I just had lots of questions, specifically about dignitaries and about how they tie into the world and their effects that they have on the game state.
You know,
So,
guys, that sorry, Aaron, I did want to interrupt you, but what I wanted to say is that it is always great when you guys have questions for us that we can answer them. We can prepare so much material, of course, but it's always better to know what interests you. So if you want to write in the comments what other questions you might have, so that we can produce other videos like this, and you're always invited to join the same way Aaron did. And now, sorry for this interruption, you can continue.
that's okay, Timon. No worries. Yeah, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and join the Discord. That's how I got involved. So yeah, I mean, I just had questions about dignitaries really, um, because I think they're really interesting and they remind me a lot of like different mechanics from other games. But the thing is, this is actually tied into a story, whereas with lots of board games, you don't really get a full story or like a background of a lot of the characters. Like they are mostly there's only like a few sentences about them, but with these people in this game there is actually a backstory, and it would be nice to hear a little bit more about where they come from, who they are, and how their cards in the game actually affect the game state.
Well, then maybe we start with how they affect the game and how they get played first, because after that we can take a look onto each dignitary individually and try to sort them to where they come from, what are their goals and stuff. What do you think about that? Shall we start like
Yeah,
this?
that sounds good.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, dignitaries, there will be in the first place 15 of those. I have 16 cards here at the moment, but you can ignore that. Maybe we do some more. But basically, these are the characters that are from the book Flax Zuxwa, which is the foundation for the Syncanite Foundation board game and will also be released in 2025. And yeah, these cards are built up all the same way, even though you see that these have different colors, which states where they come from, what kind of nation they basically are based in. We have the blue dignitaries, which are related to real, while the red ones come from the north in Avador, and the green ones here from Tigers from the industry area. Now we take a look on how one of these is basically built up, how the card is built up. So, for example, here Lillian Curon, she is an oligarch, a noble person basically, but also a person that is leading a company, the Titan pharmaceutical industry, so to say. And yeah, she is not only a person that has a lot to do with the industrial aspects of Tigers, but also with the underworld, because her company does not always do the legal stuff. And as you can see, on the top there's simply a name and an illustration. In the middle you have this number 8, and this is the so-called battle value, because sometimes dignitaries are forced into battle, and if they lose that battle or get hit by an assassination, for example, they can be killed. What is your option as a player to get rid of them in case they damage you too hard? Well, in the box, basically, we have a little fluff text that simply tells where she comes from. I mean, for example, the process of liquefying the Syncanite harks back to the Curon family, since the father's murder. Lydia has developed the company into the largest player within the Titan pharmaceutical industry, and now she's out for revenge. I guess that this creates a lot of fluff, like you can get an first idea and impression whom you're dealing
Yes.
with here, right? And
Yeah, I like that a lot.
basically, in the book, she is one of the characters that helps the main protagonists to get to a specific event in Tychus where the aristocracy meets, where, by the way, the first contact of the protagonist with the members of the Syncanite Foundation takes place. So basically, she's an enabler, but she also has her own interests. So I wouldn't say that she's on the good side nor on the bad side. Let's simply say that she plays this game with really hard tools, so to say. And
Yeah.
each dignitary has 3 unique effects, and as you can see, they're always highlighted in fat letters. So, for example, her effects are unstable medicine, stimulant shops, and synchron stroke, due to the simple fact that she acts a lot with the liquefied syncanite that can be used as a medicine, but also to kill people, and also can be abused as a drug, what states the
Wow.
different ways of or rather the different states in which she acts as a person, like as an entrepreneur, as something like a doctor, but sometimes even like a mobster, right?
Mm.
And basically, her first effect is relevant in phase 1. The thing is, the effects of dignitaries can only be used in the respective phase. This is a bit different from the other cards because this balances the dignitaries basically. So in phase 1, if you pay 1 Syncanite, then you can save or destroy 1 army. What do I mean by save? It basically means that, for example, if you play liquid Syncanite and blow up 3 armies, for example, then Lillian can counter by saying, I'm playing unstable medicine, I pay 3 Syncanite, and through that my 3 armies don't die. And the same thing applies
Wow.
in war, because when you're fighting a war and our chips fight against each other, chips get killed basically after dice rolls, and she can basically prolong the fights through investing Syncanite onto the chips to simply medicate them all the time. And as you might imagine, it's not just about getting the people together again, but it's also something like drugging the troops so that they are out of mind and simply run further and further and further. And that's meant by unstable medicine here in that case. The other thing relates more to the players' stimulant shops. I mean, it's basically that you can offer the players to enjoy the liquefied syncanite a bit, which basically allows you to force everyone to roll a dice 6. If they roll a 1 or 2, they need to pay 3 syncanite to you, because simply you're selling them the syncan drug, so to say. If they hit a 3 or 4, the consume hurts them, which basically means that you lose a victory condition. I mean, as you know, drugs are not that healthy, right? And a
Yes.
5 or 6 is no effect. In that case, you had the opportunity, or rather choose the ability to withstand the great liquefied stuff that she offers, right? So this is simply something that you can annoy the other players with, but also with that you can earn and hurt them. And last but not least, the Syncan Stroke. The thing is that I said earlier that the liquefied syncanite can also be used to strengthen people, but there's also the card that I referred to in Effect 1, which is called liquefied syncanite as well. And this is basically the thing that can also be used to build bombs. So the idea of the syncan mineral basically is that it holds energy, and the energy in it can be manipulated and also basically be released and unleashed. And when you use it with specific things in combination, you can build pistols, you can build artillery, but you can also build engines. Basically, this word here is a bit like a steampunk word, but we don't use steam, but the crystal energy, so to say. That's why I sometimes refer to the Syncanite word as a crystal punk scenario, so to say. Maybe something that got popular through Arcane, but little fun fact, this book was written in 2012 to 2015, so do not tell me that we are from Arcane here. But I really
I
like
want to
the
say I've not
series.
seen it, so I don't know.
Okay. As you can see, the last effect is in phase 3, all assassinations go plus 10. This basically enables you, I mean, it's an effect you will not use often, but sometimes there are assassinations that you play, and they usually have a basic value of 12 to 18, which
Yeah.
is always enough to hit a normal player, but sometimes there are players that have really huge armies, or that are in war with you. And with Lillian, you can add plus 10 onto them, which basically makes a 12 assassination value to 22, which is really hard to block, and an 18 value to 28, which is basically impossible to block, close to impossible. And it can
I
also be
remember.
greatly combined with the assassination on the Ascendant, which is basically the guy that spawns here when the tyranny crisis is opened up, because he is the founder of the Syncanite Foundation and initially set us up against each other. And we can win the game not only by tyranny in which we kill each other. I mean, tyranny is the crisis in which you win the game if you're the only person left by for victory condition. But you can also win by defeating the Ascendant. And he, as you can see, has a battle value of 99 on the upper left side. So you need a lot of assassinations to hit him. But if you, for example, play 5 assassinations and activate the effect of Lillian, you add up to 50 assassination value, because each assassination gets plus 10. So basically Lillian is a great person for this canon victory, for this canon ending of this game, because that's exactly the thing that happens in the book, that basically a group of persons, a group of dignitaries uncovers the conspiracy of the Foundation and basically annihilates its founder, and through that the system itself. And that's basically the next interconnection between Lillian and, in that case here, assassinations, because she's one of the persons that basically enables this thing, what happens in the book. So as you can see, each effect is based on the actions, the personality, the tools that they access, and the overall social status the dignitary has. And all the effects are basically built upon the fantasy and the idea and the story these people represent. And that's how basically this dignitary card is created and available to you for playing.
I love that. Really in-depth and amazing. I love how it connects. All the characters are connected, and the abilities are definitely like geared towards that one specific dignitary and how they relate to the other dignitaries or characters in the story. Just a question,
yes.
From like gameplay perspective, do you start with a dignitary of your choice?
There are 2 ways to play the game. The one way is that in the player aid that we refer in phase 2 to the dignitary auction, which basically means that when the dignitary auction starts, we will draw 1 dignitary, in that case the upper one, like for example here Lillian, and then we are able to bid for her the same way we do it when we want to be the starting player. So basically we are all saying a number, or rather when we are on the table, hold the capital from under the desk up, so that we say this is our offer. And the thing is that she takes the offer that pays best, but she also betrays any other player, because as you know, these people are not that dumb, but the other way around. They take the other money as well. But this basically means that everything that you bid is lost, but only the person who bids the most wins. And this basically enables the players to have a chance at bidding, even if they do not have more money than the other player, because then it's you will not bid like you say 1, then I say 2, then you say 5, then I say 10. No, we need to decide before, and we do not want to spend too much, but we are also in the fear of spending too less. And then the question is, do I spend overall, or do I leave it be? And that's also dependent on your strategy, if the dignitary is fitting it, because she, for example, is great for victory, for war, for assassination, and to earn some money. But with the 8 battle value, she's highly vulnerable. There are other dignitaries, for example here Wator, who offers a battle value of 12. So basically the basic assassination with 12 value cannot kill him. You need at least 13 in that case. So this is a huge weakness that Lillian, for example, has, that she is one of the most vulnerable dignitaries. Right?
For sure.
The thing is, each player can only have 1 dignitary at once. So in my case, if I won her, I place her on my board in a model so that I know what I'm dealing with. And basically you can imagine that the dignitary is your head and leader that acts in public, while you as a conspirator, as the investor, simply act in the background, which is, by the way, why the investor card, or rather the role cards, always show a person but covered and with a lot of distance, because that's basically the person that could be you as a conspirator, but you're not an active player that goes into the light, but you take your
Yeah,
dignitary to do that for you because you corrupt
I
them
love
with your
that.
money.
And so for the dignitary auction, are all the dignitaries up for auction?
And the thing is that only one dignitary is for auction at the moment where the auction is. So basically, one player will get a dignitary and the others don't. But there are
Yeah,
also other ways to play it. For example, this is written down in the rulebook as variants of the game. One variant, for
yeah,
example, is each player takes a look on the dignitary they ever always wanted to play, and they take them from the beginning, so that each player starts with a dignitary. This is also a great option. It will, of course, create a really dynamic game with a lot of effects, a lot of interruptions. So I highly
yeah,
recommend to do this only when you're an experienced player, but it gives you the next level for this game, basically.
yeah.
Another version
Fantastic.
is that you have more dignitaries for bidding. So, for example, you can say maybe you have, for example, 3 players, okay? And then we auction 3 dignitaries. So every player gets a dignitary, but the question is your bid decides which one do you get. And you can also play
Yeah,
variants in which you say, for example, there are 4 players, but we only auction 2 dignitaries. We can auction one and after that the other. That's something that I leave to the players. It's simply dependent on the way you like to play. If you, for example, do not like them, you do not need to use them. So they're completely optional in the game, but I personally love to play with them. And there are even scenarios in which you control more than one dignitary that can be highly unbalanced. But when you're playing with friends and having fun, it does not need to be perfectly balanced all the time, right? And the other thing is that it's always dependent on the situation, as we
yeah,
knew that
yeah,
some dignitaries are for one strategy and some dignitaries are for another.
yeah.
And
Amazing. I love it.
one main thing that you need to know is that most dignitary effects are free, but some cost Syncanite, like for example here, the first effect, Unstable Medicine, costs Syncanite, and some effects are even limited that you can only use them once per cycle or even once per game. For example, here Zelia has a game effect, or effect 2, which is only once per game, so she basically just has 2 effects. But for example, you see that there are other effects for that are highly strong, and she adds 10 Syncanite to your stack, but also adds
Yeah,
+3 to Tyranny. And you can discard a victory condition to add 5 points to a crisis of your choice, what is, if you're an experienced player, a heavy manipulation of the
yeah, it
crisis
is.
development, right?
Yeah,
And if you know that some crisis, for example, Monopoly gives you 100 capital. So, for example, you can get 10 Syncanite and also can try to activate, for example, Monopoly through discarding a victory condition. And then you do not have 100 capital, but also 10 Syncanite that you can sell. If you combine that with Triage, which for example empties the markets, you can sell your Syncanite for a high amount of money, and through that aim on an economic victory, for example. And these are the complicated, the expert level strategies that you can use. But the great thing is that the effect is simple. The mechanics that you use are simple. The interconnection of the mechanics and the situation that evolves in that case. That's the thing that's intriguing in this game, in my opinion.
yeah. That's the skill really, is to relate how you're going to use all of these to win.
As for example, one other person, he has effects that cost Syncanite. For example, here is Crisis Diplomacy. Pay 2 Syncanite to reduce the count of a crisis by 1. In a new
Mm.
version, you can also increase a counter by 1. And the thing is
Ooh,
that pay 2 Syncanite to increase or decrease a counter by 1 is a lot, but with 20 Syncanite, you can trigger a crisis of your choice. And the thing is that the
yeah,
second effect, Influence on the Order, increases or decreases the stock of Syncanite by 6, what means you can make it cheaper to buy it, or you can make it more expensive to avoid people buying it. You can also work towards tyranny with that, and you earn 4 Syncanite for doing that. So there are some
yeah.
effects that
It's like a
even make you
cycle.
earn, because I want you to use this effect frequently so that the other players feel the pressure that you bring on the board, which is, by the way, why this character again has just 9 battle value so that you can kill him, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's quite powerful, but obviously if you can get him, then that's good. So most assassinations you'll be able to deal with him.
Exactly, and that's the reason why there are some assassinations that hit all players. For example, the Terror from Within. And some people that played the demo without the dignitaries asked me, why shall I play an assassination that hits everyone? It doesn't bring me further, right? I mean, in certain situations it does, because maybe you have an intervention that saves you from the damage, or you simply want to reduce the victory conditions for everyone and maybe play another assassination or another card afterwards to make a tyranny victory or something like that. But the main reason for these cards to exist is that you can be willing to take damage in a situation in which another player has a dignitary that gets even more damage, because they lose the dignitary with this assassination of 24 and a victory condition. So basically, as you can see, you're making hard choices here, and sometimes are willing to even hurt yourself to avoid someone of continuing to using a dignitary, right?
Yeah, and it's worth it sometimes, because you're getting rid of a bigger threat than it would be to lose a victory condition.
That's the same thing here for the Journey to the Afterlife. The thing is that this card, for example, determines by a dice roll if the player needs to discard victory conditions. So this is even a gambling, so to say. But the thing is that the assassination value is higher than the assassination value here always hits the dignitary. So you might have luck to escape from that, but your dignitary won't.
Yeah.
This is why, for example, these two cards are in play. Well, now what we can do is we can take a look where each dignitary basically is located and what their role is if you want, but you can also continue to ask some questions. Aaron, I leave that to you.
Yeah, well, while you're just setting them out, I'd love to have a look at them, but just a quick question. So on the auction for the dignitaries, can you only bid money?
Yes.
Like capital?
Money.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just thought I'd ask.
These are greedy people that want to be flexible.
Yeah.
So, well, now we basically can take a look who we have here. I will not go in detail to every dignitary, but basically we can start in real, because the first dignitary that we meet in the book is Lycan Al-Zefri, this guy here. He basically lives in Lyderia here together with Akalon, who is an alchemist that builds weapons for the Imperium. As you can see, he has a battle value of 80, so this guy is someone you do not want to mess with. And he basically leads the secret projects, and Lycan basically is his he's learning from Akalon, and also aiming to get a place in the council of the Guardian of Real, who is basically the monarch safeguarding Real. And the thing is that Lycan and everyone around him is fed with a lot of propaganda in Real, because Real highlights themselves as the good people, which they're not, because they're now only good or only bad people in this world. But this is basically where the story takes off, and he gets sent to the capital city, which is basically here. So as you can see, he's simply going into the neighboring territory, and there he has an audience with the Guardian of Real, which is Zorik here, who is basically the commander-in-chief, but also the monarch. And the thing is that Zorik holds the name of Fazira, which basically is the dynasty that brought the liberation to Real, because Real once was occupied by the Tycan hegemony in the east, and that's why the name Fazira is pretty often here in Real. For example, here Alan, who is his wife, but currently missed, is another important figure, because these two have a daughter who's called Kara, who basically is not just a general but also an idealist that tries to aim on a better future. And Kara and Lycan basically meet each other and get a special mission from Zorik to uncover basically a conspiracy, because these two need to find out, is Tychus still an ally against the war against Avadur, because we're starting in a situation in the world where Real and Tychus have something like an alliance to fight off Avadur, because in Avadur the situation is not quite clear if the Reds or the Blues are basically controlling this country. And this is where we can go to Avadur so that I can explain you what I mean by that. The thing is that there are two factions in Avadur. The ones are the Blues. These are basically the people from the Conclave, that are the spiritual leaders that are sitting in this high north, and they try to find out what the ascendancy who once controlled the world was aiming on, and what their techniques were, so that they can use them themselves, basically. So you remember that the guy that we're fighting here, he is he's the last remnant of the ascendancy, so to say, and he is someone who is hiding in the shadows, and these guys here are basically studying what his people here once did and achieved. And the thing is that the blue ones, which are consisting of these three people here mainly, are in a conflict with the red ones. But the thing is that Amelia is something like a neutral, and it's basically these two, because the red ones are the people that are related to the order, and the order basically are people that say, no, we do not just want to be spiritualists and study, we also harness the options of Syncanite to increase our own strength and to build something like superhumans, so to say. So they do not just want to learn, but they are simply the guys that know no boundaries. And the thing, the order got strong due to the fact that there was an organization that was mining and distributing the Syncanite from the north to the rest of the cities, which is, by the way, connected with the Syncanite Foundation. So the order is basically something that built the foundation, that something like a Syncanite Foundation on top, this trading league, could be built. And these two people are basically inquisitors that oppose the conclave and have their own agenda. And the problem is that that Aris here in particular is someone who is a rival of Zorik, which is why these two are clashing regularly, which is why there's war at the moment. Why, I do not want to tell you, but basically there is a relation between Aris and Zorik in that case.
Okay, that's interesting.
And on their journey, Kara and Lycan basically travel through the Moundy Lands and the Iron Front, which is basically here. They travel to Verse, where this trading hub basically is. And there they uncover basically that some stuff is happening in Tychus, and now we can go to Tychus and talk about that. Because then they are slowly moving from here to there, and then they uncover something. So that's basically the story in the book that I do not want to spoil even further.
I do not want spoilers.
Tychus is a complicated thing. Tychus is not a nation. Tychus is a company. It is a company which is formed with a so-called conglomerate. The conglomerate has one arbitrator, which is Vator. Vator basically is this boss that tries to balance the interests of the shareholders of the conglomerate. And the shareholders are the corporations that build basically the city. So basically you need to imagine there is no government, there are people on a stock exchange that can buy rights by financing the conglomerate, and whoever finances the conglomerate with the most has the most to say in the decision making. Then there's this council in which Vator is the arbitrator and simply creates resolutions, which basically means that this is basically a big company which has the metropolis in the middle here, that is the biggest and most developed city in the world of Syncanite. And by the way, the crystals are green here because the Tychons need so much energy that they basically infected their crystals, which means that they were unstable, which opens up a lot of energy, but also slowly destroys the crystals, what means that they are in a constant need for new ones, which what by the way the order is delivering. So for example, she is one of the agents that is in Tychus active and basically doing the deals with Wato and his people, so that the order delivers Syncanite to the south, so that the infinite growth in the south can continue, what basically holds the system together. But on the other side, these guys are always expanding, which is why they have colonies here. For example, the southern colonies, the eastern colonies, and once even Real was part of their territory, but Real fought a liberation war 300 years ago, right? So basically, the hunger of the metropolis led to the hegemony of the East, the conglomerate, to basically harvest everything around with no hesitation, because these are the people that stand for progress, and they're in a highly dynamic time of industrialization at the moment, while for example Real opposes industrialization and simply sticks to the craftsmanship of around the Syncan stuff. Like for example, people like Akelon here, these are the alchemists of the empire that basically try to compete with the engineers of the hegemony. And due to the fact that the machines of the East are always so cruel and powerful, they are great at waging war, but what they don't have is the support of the people and the elite that is disciplined enough to basically oppose that. So what I mean is that Tychus quality is quantity, so to say, while Real highly relies on quality, which is why they cannot be defeated easily, because they will hit you hard with guerrilla wars, and they also have a big army and whatever. So which is why Tychus often does not consider to fight wars with Real. Sometimes they do, but basically they try to lower the tensions, because basically both sides do not profit from war, right? Regarding war, if the hegemony needs to keep the colonies in line, this is the job of the Strategos Tycanus, which basically is a title and not a person. We do not tell who is this person. But basically this guy here, and you see that he looks really nice and friendly, of course. I mean, you see, after Real fought for its independence from the hegemony, the Tycan High Command established a new doctrine of order. The Strategos Tycanus is both judge and executioner, with the Tycan Armada behind him. And the thing is that the Armada that we are referring to is the card that we are usually using as a representation of operation cards, because operation cards are the cards that can be bought with goods. As you know, the most goods can be found in Tychus. And there's one card which is called the Syncan Bombardment. I just need to find it. I guess that it will be
right at the bottom.
On the bottom. It will definitely be on the bottom.
There we go.
And here you see these ships that are flowing above the ground that look like these tanks with crystals, right? And basically the Strategos Tycanus has these kind of ships and bombards the coast if the people do not align with the hegemony. So basically that's meant by him being judge and executioner, because the text here says the very existence of the Tycan Armada strikes all over the continent. Whenever their ships appear, cities burn. What basically is the truth. I mean, if you do not feed the metropolis will hit you. That's basically the doctrine in this really friendly, hyper-capitalist empire. But by the way, all of that sounds pretty terrible. But the thing is that the people in the metropolis are living a really high life standard. I mean, there are different parts of the city, of course. Some are good, some are not that good. But for example, stuff like frequently running water or heating, or achievements like school or medication or whatever, all of that is from Tychus. And they achieved that through this doctrine of we need to have progress, we need to harness everything that we can. So it's not that Tychus are the evil people. These are just the people that force progress no matter the cost, which raises ethical concerns, right?
Yeah.
So he's basically the hound of the hegemony, so to say. And there are also some other people. She, as we know, is one of the corporation's oligarchs. So she is one of the shareholders from the conglomerate, and through that does deals, for example, with Vator. And so is here Mr. Bugs Silverback, who is even more shady, because
Yeah.
to the outside world, the tycoon entrepreneur Silverbacks is inconspicuous, but anyone with a relevant role in the city knows about his connections to the forces of the underworld. Rumor has he plays a central role down there. I mean, what his first effect is called "One good turn deserves another," and his third effect is
I
called
like that.
"Corruption." Do I need to tell anything else?
Yeah, there's
and,
an imbalance.
and someone who opposes this corruption is the legate here, Mormon, who basically is from. I need to read it again, to be honest. Yeah, because I once changed it. Right, he's from the colonies, so he's basically from here. And the thing is that he is just a real. He's from the Guild of Agriculture, and he simply wants to defend his status, the status of his people, but also has a lot of power because the metropolis needs people like him to keep the colonies in line. Because, as you know, you cannot only control people with force and fear like the Strategos does. You sometimes even need the people that feed the people sugar, the whip and
Yeah.
the sugar, and he's one of the sugar givers if he gets what he wants. So he's also in negotiating his situation daily, so to say.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, this is basically the main thing that you need to know. The only person which is independent here is Amelia, who is, by the way,
Yeah.
inspired by a certain pilot that you know, Amelia Earhart, which is why Amelia E is
Oh,
her name here.
really?
And the thing is
Nice.
that here in the middle, where the crises are lying, here is the in Germany I call it the Wolkenmeer. In English it will be the Cloud Sea. So basically, here is a
Okay.
big crater. I mean, this crater
Ah.
is as big as the city and even more. So dozens of kilometers of size. And the thing is, in this crater, something is really hot and always burning the water, which basically means
Mm.
that the water evolves into clouds. But the crater's walls, the mountains, are so high that the um, the clouds cannot escape, which basically means that they're always raining down again and heating up again and stuff. And through that, you can use airships that use the heating from below to to sail over the cloud sea. And Captain
Mm.
Amelia is one of the people that does that. That, for example, move Syncanite, for example, from the north to the south, or some special other things. But one thing that she does not like is that, for example, a Syncanite pipeline just got built between the north and the south, which, by the way, is a project of the Order to strengthen their grip on Tychus, right? And she
Yeah.
is more aligned with the blue ones, as the blue ones are the more peaceful people, so to say. And it might be that our heroes also meet her someday, and through that get
Okay.
from Tychus to Avadur someday.
Interesting. I like that.
That's basically what's the role of every character. There are even more characters, but I just chose these 15 for the
Yeah.
first role
It's
of
quite a lot.
dignitaries.
Because obviously, I think the maximum players will be 6. So, and if each one can have one dignitary, there's 15 is quite a big selection to choose from. So,
Exactly.
I feel like if you did any more, it might be overwhelming because there would be so
Indeed.
much choice.
I mean, maybe they will do an expansion with some more dignitaries, which
Yeah,
is why I called that the volume 1 of Dignitary Pack.
I think that's
But
a good idea
one
because then
thing
you
after
like
another.
percolate. Yeah, I definitely think if you did like more than this in the first, it would be like whoa. I mean, I feel like because also you should develop, right? So you have more ideas as time goes on. say you want to get those ones out when you have that idea and you know that it's a good one, as opposed to just jamming it all in one.
I definitely want that each dignitary feels unique and also ties in perfectly in the story. As I said before, each dignitary effects are based on what they're doing and what their social status is in this world, and which is why everything needs to fit together. I do not want to spam dignitaries simply because I can. I think that each effect should feel unique and should give you the opportunity to feel the power the person in the story really has. For example, here Vato, he has the option of market manipulation, which basically means you can seal off one market. You can simply, for example, say, no Syncanite can be bought or sold on the market this round, which is a huge power he has, for example, and he really has it as he's the arbitrator of the stock market in Tychus, which is basically the big market in this world, right?
Yeah.
And on the other side, for example, here Archelon, who's building a super weapon for real to end the war with Avadur and also to threat Tychus, because they simply are working on a nuke, so to say, for deterrence, which is called the Aziva project. As you can see, here's one effect which is called construction of the Aziva. Pay 150 capital to enable Aziva preemptive strike to be used once per cycle, which basically means that you can pay 300 capital to use it 2 times per cycle. And the Aziva preemptive strike says, when unlocked, select a player. He needs to discard 2 victory conditions or half their armies, and this effect is unstoppable.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You can basically imagine the thing that he's building, something like an intercontinental weapon that he's shooting around. So basically the setting of this is the end of the 19th century to the start of the 20th century. And he's basically Robert Oppenheimer, working in that area. And really like interesting, when you notice this detail, his effect is called order contacts. Look at that.
Yeah.
Order contacts.
Order
he has contact with the order, and through that gets Syncanite cheaper. The guy was building the nuclear weapon to defeat the warmongers of the order in Ryle, gets his Syncanite from the order.
Yeah.
Think about that. Is it true what the Relian propaganda tells you? His connections to the order and the radical views have prevented him from holding an official position in Real. Why is that? There are a lot of secrets to uncover here.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, do we find out?
By the way, here, Alan Frazura, appointed from House Frazura of Real. Alan, a native Avadian, is the compromise candidate from the office of Justica. With a fearless sense of justice, she quickly made herself a name. Basically, there is something like an international justice department, because sometimes there are people that are so dangerous when they use Syncanite that all nations together need to get rid of them. And she basically got the office of Justicar, which is why she will be here on the Iron Front, because on the Iron Front, you see this building here, right? This fortress.
Yeah.
This fortress is basically the capital of the Justica, because as you can see, it's exactly on the edge of the Cloud Sea, of Tychus, Avadur, and Real.
Yeah.
And she is born in Avadur. She's married to the Emperor of Real. And she opposes the corruption of Tychus. So you can imagine that this might be a bit complicated. But as you can see, the thing, it's always the same with these monarchs and dynasties. The people are interconnected with each other and share interests and sometimes even oppose each other. Maybe she is one of the reasons why he has a problem with Zorik. But I will not tell more.
Maybe. I need that book. Then I'll know what you're talking about.
Soon. Do you have any
Yes,
more
I'm
questions
excited.
related to the dignitaries, to gameplay, or anything else?
I think you basically covered most of it, if not all of it, all the questions that I had, and I think really going into the relationship between the characters and maybe why some of their abilities are what they are. I think that's really interesting.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
You're highly welcome. And if you guys watching have any more questions to our dignitaries, feel free to ask them. The dignitary pack will be an option in the Kickstarter campaign, but is also included in the gameplay all-in, simply due to the fact that not everyone wants more complexity and wants more material, so that's your choice. The dignitary cards will probably be in foil. I will check that this week because this video is recorded before the campaign, and you will see in the campaign if they're foil. They probably are, but I just need to ask the producer again if
Yes,
this is good for readability and stuff. I do not want to create
sure.
shiny cards that are worthless for playing, you know. But overall, you know
Well,
that these cards here will be beautiful tarot-sized cards that
yes,
are not just good to play in a game of Syncanite, but also tell you a story, as everything does in this board game, because that's the unique selling point, that we have a board game that enables you to immerse yourself in this world. And the great thing is, the protagonists in the book are basically fighting the antagonists from the Foundation, which basically is what you guys will be playing in this game. So if you want to be the evil guys, check our campaign out. I guess that you will have a lot of fun. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye. Thank you.
thank you.